Hi everybody, this is Brian Koo with another ROK video. Today we are looking at the use of arrow towers in new KvK formats like the Sword of Stratagems. The way arrow towers work is that you convert a normal alliance flag into an arrow tower, which then shoots projectiles at nearby enemy cities, and when the durability of that city is reduced to 0, it will be forcibly teleported away and into the starting zone of that camp's Lost Kingdom. In this case, the very well-known enemy whale Peacemaker voluntarily teleported away before their durability hit 0 because they wanted to keep random teleporting around and try to find another good spot close to this fort drop that our opponents, Kingdom 2268, were attempting to pull off. Peacemaker actually ended up getting another random teleport nearby, and at the tail end of this fight, his marches would start showing up again. We're now looking at another arrow tower, reducing another 2268 whale, Panda, and once Panda is reduced to 0 durability, they will also be teleported away. I actually put up an alliance marker letting everyone know that arrow towers were going to remove these cities because the situation looked really rough at first, but once I learned that we had arrow towers available that we could convert, we just knew that once those cities were gone, this situation would become a lot easier for us to deal with, and I didn't want people to overcommit to fighting Panda's marches or fighting Peacemaker's marches, because we were really just in a waiting game. We were waiting for those cities to get teleported away, and then we were really going to attack this 2268 ball that was here at the fort. The way arrow towers are stored up is that you start the KvK with 5 arrow towers as an alliance, and once you start building them, you can regain 1 arrow tower every 24 hours up to a maximum of 5. Now, this particular fort drop was on day 2 of our war, and it was really fortunate that we were judicious in our use of arrow towers on the first day, because we had a number of them stored up that we could use for this fort drop that 2268 tried to pull off. Now, I think, some people might say that, well, these arrow towers are unfair to whales because they spent all these gems to teleport around, and they eventually got lucky and found a teleport spot really close to the fight. What I would say is that whales in this game have a tremendous number of advantages. They have the best equipment, they have the most crystal tech, they have tons of resources, and seemingly bottomless speed-ups. And to reduce any of those advantages by whales would require major changes to the game. Whereas something like arrow towers is a really sort of ingenious, logical way of countering one of the many things that whales can do, which is random teleport onto your territory, right in your face, and cause you tons of problems that are super hard to deal with. And so with arrow towers, we were committing alliance-level resources to deal with 1 or 2 individual players. It doesn't change the game in any real significant way. It doesn't change how much people are spending on the game. It doesn't change the overall makeup of combat. It's just a good way of countering whales, in one small way. It's not like whales are suddenly at a disadvantage. This is just one thing that an alliance can do against some of their most dangerous opponents. And I think ultimately, arrow towers are good in a number of ways. And the other way in which they're good is that they make fighting around forts and flags more interesting, less annoying, and more of the kind of gameplay that we all want to have. So what we're looking at now is we're looking at one of the many forts that our team put up that 2268 needed to burn down in order to reach a level 9 pass that we were blocking. And I think what you'll notice here that looks different than most fort situations is that there's this large grassy plain, this empty grassy plain in between the line of cities for our opponents and the line of forts and cities on our side. There's a bunch of resource tiles that have spawned in this area. which is a sign that there have been no cities on that grassy plain for a number of hours and days. And this is what arrow towers do. Arrow towers create a radius around them where no enemy cities can exist. And so 2268 put an arrow tower on their front line that teleported out all of our cities that were in front of this fort, and it gave them this empty area in which to gather their murder ball and protect their farm troops, right? We had no cities there where we could jump out and attack their farm troops, even though we marked their farm troops. And ultimately, ultimately this just changes things around quite a bit, because normally, without arrow towers, the 2268 ball would be standing amongst a number of our cities, and we would be constantly hopping out of those cities, trying to harass their troops, get some good trades, get some kill points, and just city hopping and cheeseburgering is just a huge part of most fort assaults, because forts are typically surrounded by cities. Another dynamic here in Sword of Stratagems is that counter rallies launch immediately once they're filled up with troops, and so you're seeing me here launch a counter rally before their rally has even reached the target. And this is just another semi-significant change that Sword of Stratagems has made, and I would argue that both of these changes are quite good. The instant counter rallies are certainly very interesting. They give the defense the chance to get a good trade here. Like, they're essentially going to swarm down my counter rallies, and I'll get a decent trade against the rally, and I'll get a rather good trade against the swarmers. And it's just the arrow towers in this case give the offense an advantage, because they don't have to deal with any cities around their ball, and the instant counter rallies give a bit of an advantage to the defense, because we just have a way to soften up their rally a little bit and soften up some of their big marches that would otherwise be swarming this fort at some point. And what ultimately happened here is that I think the gameplay was very good. I think the combat gameplay was very good. Because the enemy controlled the field, that gave them a really big advantage where they were able to protect their farm filling marches quite well. Because there were a bunch of resource tiles in this area, it gave everyone a chance to do some interesting things with tile hopping, and that opened up the combat a little bit more for both sides. And with our counter rallies, what happens is that because 2268 dominates the field so much, they were able to send a couple of players' murder balls to my city, and they could harass the people trying to join my city for the counter rally. When we were on our game, we would then send our open field to attack those harassing murder balls, and it would just open up some, interesting open field fighting that otherwise wouldn't happen in a situation like this, where normally defenders just turtle around their fort. They send reinforcements into the fort, and they just hope to either hold or get as good of a trade as they can before the burn. But I think the combination of getting rid of cities via arrow towers and having instant counter rallies, it just added some positive elements to combat in Rise of Kingdoms. And those things are ultimately good. It spiced things up a little bit, but it also got rid of some of the annoying things about combat in Rise of Kingdoms. It's annoying to deal with city hoppers all the time. It's annoying to sort of have to walk through 2 or 3 layers of cities just to get to the fort. And, arrow towers remove that stuff, while also removing the ability of whales to random teleport in your face whenever they want. So, in this case, you see that the enemy did burn our fort just before my counter rally got there. 2268 had sort of that was their tendency on this day, was that they would start swarming right before one of the counter rallies hit. And, this was just sort of the back and forth fighting that we have been doing for about 2 straight weeks. Kingsland opens in just over 24 hours. This war is still very close. Hard to say who's going to win. Both sides have played well so far. Here's the report of that counter rally I launched. A decent trade against the Swarmers, and unlike many of the counter rallies, the Attila Nevsky actually traded quite well against the rally. And here's the garrison report from that one. We had a Gorgo Attila infantry garrison, and it was a pretty even trade against the Ashurbanipal Tariq rally, but you saw at the end that our garrison got popped, and so I think at that point the trade went in favor of 2268 as they continued to swarm when there was a series of Charles, Nevsky, and Belisarius garrisons. So it's been a back and forth fight so far. Very interesting. Plenty more to say about it. So please like this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to the channel if you want more coverage from our point of view. And I will see you all on the flip side.